Where's Gershon though?
I don't know. Let me text him.
I just sent him. I just texted him.
Okay, good. Thanks. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe. It really is. And is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe Margaret Vogel, a blessed memory.
You're the only one in Long Meadow, though, ever.
Apples from the... Right, unless Gershon's here. Apples from the Orchard contain selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Okay, and we are on 1228. Shmos 2. Had some wild stuff. So basically what we said was that on the holiday of Sukkot, we offer, the Torah tells us to offer 70 bulls as sacrifices. 13 the first day of Sukkot, 12 the second day, 11 the third day, and so on. And on the last day, 7. And that's a total of 70. These 70 are offered on behalf of the 70 nations of the world. The world has 70 nations that are listed, enumerated in Parshas Noach after the episode of the flood. And it represents all the nations of the world. And it says that on the one hand, these offerings give strength, give power to the 70 nations, bring prosperity to the 70 nations. If the 70 nations understood how much it benefits, how much these offerings benefit them, then they would surround the Beis HaMikdash and not let anyone harm it for this one offering on their behalf in the year. 70 offerings for 70 nations once a year. So on the one hand, they get nourishment from this. On the other hand, it also helps elevate them. And we don't want to give them too much power, or the Jewish people, God forbid, would not survive. But we do want to elevate them and bring them holy as well. So we're now on 1228 at the second passage. Let me see if I can share the screen here. Not fair. You gotta be kidding. Give me one. I thought I had it's open. The choice does not show up here. Maybe it has to actually be open. Okay.
Success.
Yeah. January 5th. So I think this is where we stop.
Now.
Tell him 10 minutes ago.
Okay. Bye.
Tell him we're getting to the salacious stuff now.
He didn't look at his phone. I just called him.
Thank you.
He said, is it class? I said, now.
Okay, 77. So we have this observance when we bring offerings on Sukkot. in addition to pouring, throughout the year when we bring an offering, we also pour wine into the altar. The same way when we, on Sukkot, in addition to the wine, we also pour water. And that is, you probably have heard of the Simchas Beis HaShoeva. They would go to draw the water. There would be a great ceremony, a great parade, that they would go down to the Shiloach, I think, and to take the water from there. And I was there. I get confused between two of them, but I was at both places. So we know where the Shiloach is, Silwan in Arabic. So where do we find this idea that we're supposed to take water and pour it with the offerings on Sukkot? It's not written explicitly in Torah. The Gemara explains that although the Torah does not write explicitly to pour water with the sacrifices on Sukkot, it alludes to it. The Torah writes the offerings for the 7 days of Sukkot. The passages are identical. It says the first day, second day, third day, except for the number of bulls and the addition of the letters Mem, Yud, Mem, the second, sixth, and seventh days. More specifically, the second day, it says Viniske Hem. The other days it just says Viniska, and it's pouring, its libations. And here it says Viniske Hem, their libations. There's an extra Mem. And the sixth day, instead of Viniska, it's pouring its libations. It says Unasacheha, it's libation. It's libation. The singular, it says Unsacheha, and it's libations. There's an extra yud. And on the seventh day, Kamishpatam, not that like its rules, but their rules. So there is in these days, we have an extra letter, Mem, Yud, and Mem. These extra letters spell Mayim, water. And so this is how we know in the Gemara that we pour, water has to be poured with the offerings on Sukkot. If I'm not mistaken, there's another opinion in the Gemara that says it's just something that's been handed on orally, and there is absolutely no place for it in Torah. I think that's a second opinion. I'm not 100% sure. Now, had the Torah include, and here's what we come to our text. Had the Torah included hints to water in the other days as well, first, third, fourth, and fifth, the nations would have no power to harm the Jews. Apparently, the nations would be elevated. By including the water pouring only as an allusion, not explicitly, on 3 days of Sukkot, instead of writing it explicitly or including the allusion for all 7 days, the nation's power to harm Jews remains just as it is. It's not too powerful, and it's not, they're not disarmed. Okay? So there's a lot here. Alan, are you ready? Are you up to the task, Alan?
Yes, I'm up for it. I'm ready.
Okay. Page 1228. Welcome, Gershon. Thus,
the ritual of pouring water also corresponded to the non-Jewish nations. The ritual of pouring water is alluded to only in the verses describing the additional offerings for the second, sixth, and seventh days of Sukkot. Even though this ritual seems like idolatry, just like the scapegoat of Yom Kippur, nevertheless, because Hashem commanded us to do it, we fulfill his commands. The ritual of pouring water is not alluded to in the verses describing the additional offerings for the first, third, fourth, and fifth days of Sukkot, for if they were, the non-Jewish nations would not have any power to harm us.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to keep an eye on this for me. And I think it means because that the non-Jewish nations would be totally elevated and purified. Okay, go ahead.
The water libation of Sukkot is not mentioned explicitly in the Torah. However, it is alluded to in the verses that describe the additional communal sacrifices that are offered up during that holiday. These 23 verses appear as 7 paragraphs, 1 paragraph for each day of the holiday. Each paragraph consists of 3 verses, except for the one for the first day, which consists of 5 verses. Once the pattern is set up, these verses are identical except for the number of bulls prescribed for each day, and 3 subtle changes in the phrasing of the verses prescribing the wine libations that accompany these additional offerings and the daily morning offering. These changes are highlighted below.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask you to read the whole thing, but each of these rows has one of the days: second day, third day, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. It skips the first day. And if you see the part that's highlighted, it's bolded on the second day. It says there, and in the Hebrew side, there's the last letter on the Hebrew is a mem. If you go all the way to the bottom one, the 6th day, and the bold word is libations, and on the Hebrew side, the second to last letter is bolded, the yud. And in the top of 1229, 7th day, the word their rule is bolded, and in the Hebrew side, it's again a mem. And those 3 letters, mem, yud, mem, spell mayim. And that's the allusion to pouring water with the sacrifices during the holiday of Sukkot. Okay, go ahead, Alan, as can be seen.
As can be seen from these verses in Hebrew, the anomaly of the second day is indicated by an added letter mem. The anomaly of the 6th day is indicated by an added letter yud, and the anomaly of the 7th day is indicated by an added mem. These 3 added letters, mem, yud, mem, spell mayim, the word for water. It is not clear why the water libation should be considered similar to idolatry. Perhaps it is because cleaning an idol is considered one form of serving it, and pouring water on the altar could be construed as cleaning it. Once the non-Jewish nations have been associated with water, it follows that if the water libation were alluded to in each day's verses, that is, if this libation encompassed the entire passage from the Torah describing the additional offerings for Sukkot, it would imply that their power over this holiday is complete, even though the bulls sacrificed on their behalf are offered up on all 7 days, and the water libation is performed on all 7 days. The fact that the allusion to the water libation is limited to only 3 of the 7 days exerts a limiting effect on the power granted to the non-Jewish nations by these rituals. It could also be that by forming an abbreviation from the letters representing 2, 6, and 7, Beis Vav and Zayin, the Arizal is intimating that specifically these days allude to the water libation because the meaning of this word is scorn or contempt.
Okay, that's a suggestion.
Right.
Okay. This is like totally new stuff. I haven't seen anywhere else where it connects the pouring of the water with the 70 nations. It does connect the bull offerings on Sukkot with the 70 nations. That is a very prominent teaching and well known. But the pouring of water, interesting. Okay, now a verse in Tehillim refers to the nations harassing Jews. It says, Sarim redafuni chinam. Nations pursued me futilely. The the final letters of these three words, and this I'm going to say is a random phrase in Tillim. The connection is because we're talking about, what's connected is talking about being harassed by being harassed by other people. Could be David HaMelech is writing this personally, that the nobles have pursued me futilely, referring to King Shaul, or they pursued me for no reason. Through no fault of mine. But here, Sarim are noble people, and it refers to the nations or to the ministering angels of the nations. So this is the connection, that the final letters of these three words spell Mayim, water. The first three letters are Shin, Resh, and Ches, and they can stand for Shlishi, Revi, Chamishi, third, fourth, and fifth, which are the days when there is no allusion to the water pouring. We said that the hints for water pouring on the second, fifth, sixth, and seventh, which means that the first, third, fourth, and fifth are left out. So the first three letters can stand for Shlishi, Revi, Chamishi, third, fourth, and fifth. The first day gets left out of this equation, gets dropped. But these are the days when there's no allusion to the water pouring. The verse says that they pursue for naught, which means they derive power from the pouring of water that's hinted at on the second, sixth, and seventh, but is not hinted at on the third, fourth, and fifth. This is a real stretch and twist, and something that someone on this class had once called construed.
Contrived.
Yeah, contrived. This is real contrived. This is a real stretch. This is pushing the envelope. But here it is.
Yeah, I hear this and I keep thinking about how there were things of a much more revealed nature that I thought, oh yeah, that's really contrived. And now they seem common sense. So maybe one day these will also.
That's why I'm smiling. Exactly that reason. Because the more that you see this and the more that you get into it, and the Arizal is exceptional in this. He's really, really, off the edge in making connections. But we're much more used to it, and we're much more accepting of it. Whenever we do this, whenever this is done, the connection exists independent of these different hints and allusions. And that's how the Arizal sees it. He actually sees the connections, and then he finds, I think, and then he says, okay, you can also find a hint based on this and based on that.
This doesn't seem that contrived, because it feels like a cipher. You're just hiding a message.
The idea to have Shlishi, Revi, and Chamishi, that the letters of the first letter of Sarim and Redafuni and Chinam, and our Shin, Resh, and Ches, and to say they stand for Shlishi, Revi, Chamishi, third, fourth, and fifth, that is very much out there. That's far out. Off the reservation.
Am I the one who said contrived? I hope not. That's so disrespectful.
It appears to us as contrived. The more you study it, the more it opens your eyes, and you see that how these connections are too far. I
wouldn't call it contrived, but the fact that now are we saying that we don't do it the 3, 4, and 5, or because we're supposed to do it 2, 6, and 7, correct?
Yes, we do 2, 6, and 7. 3, 4, and 5 are left out.
So
since they're not hinted there, it means, I guess this is where they get their power to attack us. Because if it would be on 3, 4, and 5, then we would totally elevate them. They wouldn't have any power to pursue us.
Why does it mention 1?
I don't know. It's left off. Doesn't say. Here's the thing about contrived. It appears to us as contrived, but when you see this more and more and more, and you come across it all over, it's something that can't be denied. There is.
We've seen more contrived. We've seen things that were completely, it's like, you're just, trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. But
but the first time that you hear gematria, and you hear connecting that, relating two words because they have the same gematria, seems very far out, far-fetched, and contrived.
No, with the kollels, and then you pull
we're used to it,
and then you spell it back. But that sounds, it seems like a little hidden message, like a cipher. I've been reading Dan Silva, so about spies.
What?
Spy novel, and so this seems very, very logical.
After reading Daniel Silva, yes, I've read all his. Yes,
my wife was teaching the sixth graders. We have an amazing sixth grade class. She was teaching them, and they have to learn Baal HaTurim. Baal HaTurim has, and Baal HaTurim is printed in a lot of Chumashim, and it's also been done by ArtScroll, translated and explained by ArtScroll. So her kids love it. So she's been doing with them, and they had a gematria, and the kids are smart enough, they double check the math, and it was off. So they challenged her, and she said, I don't know, I'll have to ask my husband. So I came, we looked, the commentary in the English, Baal HaTurim, just points out that it doesn't add up. And then they give a few solutions. The kollel is one of them. I think you take the whole word of one word, and you count the letters of the other word. And with that, it comes out right. I think something like that.
That makes sense.
So it could seem very contrived. What?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But we're used to it.
We're used to it. Right.
Happens in other places too.
We're used to it. It's just, if you're not used to it, it seems totally off base.
Right.
We're used to it. We see that it's very common. The father of the Lubavitch Rebbe was taken to prison in 1939. And afterwards, he was writing about it. He was a Kabbalist. And he wrote about the meaning, significance of how many days he sat in prison. Is the same gematria as something else, and he writes all these things, and he's counting numbers, adding up words, and then I think maybe with the name of the prison. I don't remember, but this is how he studied Torah. So we have the books where he wrote down a commentary, and a lot of it's stuff like this. I did a month ago. I opened up a book on my shelf. I don't think I opened it before. And I started reading, and it's like, it blew my mind. But again, it's all kinds of things. If you're not used to it, it seems very far-fetched. So, which is an interesting thought, how it is that we become accustomed to something we see, and you just see there's so much. It's not just a one-shot deal. It's all over. We find these kind of connections. Okay, go ahead. Alan, continue. This is alluded.
This is alluded to in the phrase, princes have pursued me futilely, which implies that if the angelic princes of the 70 nations pursue us, their pursuit would be futile were it not for the ritual of pouring the water. The initials of the words for the third, fourth, and fifth, Shlishi, Revi, and Chamishi, three of the 4 days on which the water libation is not alluded to, are the same as the initials of this phrase, and the final letters of this phrase spell out the word for water, mayim.
So they only have power because we do the water pouring.
And yet that's the greatest joy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in our terms, we're elevating them. And this is one way to understand the water pouring ceremony. There are others. This is one way. If I'm not mistaken, in the Gemara, in the Gemara in Tainus, it says that the pouring the water on Sukkot induces the rain to fall. On the pasuk until Korei, what's it called? Korei lekol tzinorecha. Something else, something. Korei lekol tzinorecha. That the pouring of the water reaches out or induces the rain to fall.
Where does it say that?
Give me 1 second, please. You're real lazy. You don't want to get up.
It's all right if you don't have it.
I should have it. And it's just
I mean,
my
at
fingers.
least you can see a parallel that something we do down here stimulates the same thing up above. Sort of.
That's throughout everything that we learn has that,
Yeah.
but here it's in the Talmud. It's Tahom el Tahom. I'm sorry. Tahom el Tahom Korei lekol tzinorecha. That means deep calls to deep at the sound of the pipes, meaning the pipes that carry the channels that carry the water from the altar. And this is in Tillim 42:8.
Thank you.
No. Yeah, I'm sorry. Tillim 42:8. Tahom el Tahom Korei lekol tzinorecha. Okay, let me get back out of here. Okay. All right. As we've said, the ceremony of pouring water corresponds to the ministering angels of the 70 nations of the world. The esrog is a symbol of the benefactor of the Jewish people, Hashem himself. So while the other nations have ministering angels, we have Hashem. Yet we also do have the angel Michael. But Hashem, we have a direct line. The esrog, the Gemara finds different indications to the esrog in the word hadar, which is beautiful. It says pre-eitz hadar, a beautiful fruit of a tree. So the Ariz and the Gemara like twists the word hadar, beautiful, to mean different things based on the vowels, or I think on the Greek word even, and that's similar. And the Arizal sees a different indication. He says that the word hadar can mean dwell as follows. While the ministering angels of the 70 nations lose their power as their nation falls, the benefactor of the Jewish people, Hashem, dwells among us always and forever. So, and it says in the Torah, take for yourselves, meaning that take the esrog for yourselves, means with the esrog, we show that we are with Hashem and not with an angel. Okay? Okay, my mind's not working. It's really bad. All right, Gershon, are you ready?
Yes.
Actually, Abigail, why don't you take 1229 at the bottom?
Excuse me. Since the water libation corresponds, as we have said, to the 70 angelic princes, the Torah commanded us to hold, in opposition to these 70, the fruit of the citron tree, which alludes to the Holy One, blessed be he, who dwells among us always and forever. For whereas the angelic princes fall in succession, when Babylonia fell, its angelic prince was nullified, and so for all the rest, he, may he be blessed, endures. His name endures forever. He therefore commanded us to hold the citron fruit on Sukkot. One of the commandments,
Go ahead.
okay, one of the commandments observed during the holiday of Sukkot is holding 4 plant parts together: a citron fruit, esrog, a palm branch, the lulav, a myrtle branch, hadas, and a willow branch, arava. The Arizal now shows how each of these alludes to the oneness of God, which is juxtaposed as the antidote to the polytheism or its derivative philosophies of natural causation of the nations.
Okay. So we just did the esrog. Next, the lulav. The lulav also alludes to Hashem. It is just one branch with leaves leaning against a branch, as opposed to a branch with many branches and twigs. Usually, from one branch, other branches branch off and twigs. You like that, Alan?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, Abigail, similarly.
Similarly, the palm branch alludes to the Holy One, blessed be he, who is alone and unique in the world, just as the palm tree does not have many branches like other trees, but one lone branch. In contrast, the angelic princes are many branches, while he, may his name be blessed, is one.
Okay. Next, we have the hadas, the myrtle. Not Myrtle the turtle, just myrtle. It's called kapos anaf eitz avos, a thick branch of a tree. The branch of myrtle has 3 leaves together. The 3 leaves stand for Avraham and Chesed. Yitzchak are corresponding to Gvura, and Yaakov corresponding to Tiferes. But all 3 are on one branch and come out from the same place on one branch. Hashem is the only one who can be all 3, even though they are mutually exclusive. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the branch of the thick tree, the myrtle branch, also alludes to the Holy One, blessed be he, for he comprises both judgment and mercy, just as the myrtle branch must have 3-fold overlapping leaves corresponding to the 3 patriarchs: Abraham, who personified Chesed exclusively, Isaac, who personified Gevurah exclusively, and Yaakov, who personified judgment and mercy. Someone who can reconcile 3 opposites at once cannot be found anywhere in the world. Only our God, may he be blessed, can do this.
All right. And next, the 4th of the 4 kinds is the willow, which is called willows of the brook. They typically grow near water. Hashem delights in Torah, which is compared to water. As it says, all who are thirsty go to water. Thus, we see that all 4 items are symbols for Hashem.
So finally, the willow branch also alludes to the Holy One, blessed be he, for it only grows next to water, alluding to how our God, may his name be blessed, delights in the Torah, which is alluded to by water, as it is written, all those who thirst go to the water.
Okay.
I'm trying to,
Go ahead.
sorry. I'm thinking of what I call that famous teaching of the Rebbe's. I don't know if it's a Sikha, where he says the lulav represents, all Jews are represented in the lulav and esrog. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sure you do. That's one,
Yes.
yeah, the Torah versus mitzvahs versus nothing. So I'm trying to parallel these and understand how these all work together. So
The Rebbe says, well, let me begin. you ever play Hangman
Sure.
or something like that? Okay. And the teacher puts on the board 4 blank spaces. Okay. Let's just say the teacher has 3 words in mind and hasn't decided yet which one to use. I'm a
Nice
teacher. I've done that.
That's a nice thing. That's Hesed. Huh?
Yes, Chesed.
Yeah, it
Which
is.
I mean, how many words could fit into those 4 spaces before you begin?
Oh,
Millions,
really?
hundreds of thousands.
At least 4.
At
Oh,
least
4.
How many words?
A million.
A lot,
Yeah.
right?
4 words.
So now any word that you has in common, any word that can be there, what does that have in common? It has 4, and the word's going to have 4 letters. So the Torah doesn't give us any reason. The Torah tells us an Esra Glulav, Hadas and Arava. Okay? Go. You want to make a reason for it? There doesn't have to be a reason. You want to have a reason, and so okay, it says that it's connected with water. The Gemara says it's connected with water, but you want to make a reason. You want to find symbolism. It's like choosing a word to fit into the 4 spaces. You want to say it talks about people who excel in Torah or excel on mitzvahs. Fine, we can do that. You want to say it shows unity because each one shows unity. We can do that. You want to say each one's a symbol for Hashem. That fits too.
It's just that Hashem said so, and we're making up reasons of why.
Yeah, well, all the reasons are valid. As long as
So-
they're part of
Why wouldn't they be?
Traditional Jewish interpretation.
So it's like a tool. Hashem gives us a tool where the pieces fit together. And if there's some Torah that we want to teach, there's a tool.
But it does have to be within authentic Torah teachings.
Yeah.
You can't say that that the 4 kinds, are for the 4.
Matriarchs. There's 4, right?
Well, but
I
maybe
bet you
they'll
could.
work. No, I was gonna say for the next 4 Chinese years. I don't know what they are. Platypus, dragon, a mole, and an Amazon parrot.
But don't you think that if you pushed it, if you knew enough Torah, that you would find a connection? Because the Torah is the blueprint for everything.
So what I'm gonna say is, if it's based on authentic Torah, an authentic tradition analysis. Okay,
So,
in order
Why does
to
there have to be a reason?
correct. It's an irrational commandment, correct? Now, there might be a reason, but
hey,
it's nice to have a story
Nancy,
to.
You listen to my class. Putting you on speaker. Where we finished. We started 7:30. You can tell Nancy. No, not done yet. I'll put you on speaker here. I'll call you
We're at
back.
the good part now. This is the good part.
So
It's just like a chok. Hashem says it. It doesn't have to be a reason.
right, but even in Chok, we find symbolism. We find meaning. You want to call it a reason? You want to call it symbolism? They're not the same. We
No.
eat matzah on Pesach because Hashem took us out of Egypt. Faster than you can say, what's it faster than you can say?
Matzah.
That's it.
No,
Go rise.
in this case, faster than
Faster
the
than New York.
dough.
Dough could rise, yeah.
Huh?
But
Faster
But-
than dough
but when
could
you-
rise.
The
But when
minute
you're
rice.
But when you're seeing the reasons, you're not coming up with a reason because I need a reason. You're seeing more Torah in it.
So I'm saying is that sometimes there's a reason, and sometimes we're finding symbols or symbolism. This is my own distinction. Okay, it's not written anywhere. Sometimes we find symbolism. Does the Torah give a reason for the 4 kinds? No. The Torah doesn't give a reason for the shofar.
No.
It was, the whole Gemara doesn't give a reason. It might imply something here or there. The Rav, I think Rav Haigon, who was 1,000 years ago, I think he lived in the 900s. So he put together 10 reasons of the shofar. How do you do that? He looked through Tanakh and found 10 psukim about the shofar and said, here are 10 reasons. Avram took a ram instead of his son Yitzchak. That's one reason for the shofar. There was a shofar at Mount Sinai, a second reason for the shofar. But these reasons are not, I'm going to say they're not official. And in order to be official, they would probably have to be in either in the Medrash or in the Talmud. Maybe the Zohar too, maybe more. But as you go through, Rav Haigon, he compiles this. I don't know if I personally, I don't, and again, I'm making this distinction, but instead of calling them reasons, it's more as symbols of the shofar, or things that the shofar stands for, things that the shofar represents. And then we have other reasons after that. There are reasons given in Hasidus that are not found in his 10 reasons. Sadia Gaon, I'm sorry, Rabbi Sadia Gaon. I think he lived in the 900s. Okay, so those are not they're not really official reasons. They're more like symbols of the shofar. But in order to be official reasons, it would probably have to be in the Talmud, Medrash, or Zohar. Maybe other works also. Rav Sadia Gaon, he's an authority. You know, we still know about him 1,000 years later. You know, for us, we'll be lucky if we're remembered by anyone past our grandchildren or great-grandchildren. So he was an authority. Who can come up with these things? Well, you have authorities. They're reliable. We can rely on them. You have Yukel Bear, who decides that it's connected with the Chinese years. If Yukel Bear is an authority, if it's based on authentic Torah analysis or authentic Torah tradition, if he can show how it's based, then maybe there's something to talk about. But if he's just, if he's just compositating and pontificating, then it doesn't have it. Then there's nothing authentic to it. There's no authenticity. It's not genuine. And I'm saying this, we have, I don't know if you're aware in the last 20, 30 years, you have all these things of medrash. You have dance medrash, and people come up with medrash and legends. And they find it in Torah and make up a story about Adam and Eve. They might make a story about Lilith or about something else, but these are made up, or they're nice things, something that happened at the sea, and is totally, in a sense, it makes a mockery of the medrash.
It's like a fiction.
Yeah.
It makes a mockery of the medrash. Yeah, I just saw. I don't remember. If it's in the Talmud, it can be far-fetched. They take a name and they make all this, they read all the kinds of things. It's in the Talmud. That is traditional Torah analysis. So it's traditional, it's part of the tradition of Judaism, of how we understand the Torah. And if people come up today with new ideas, as long as it's within the frameworks of Torah, that's fine. If it's to promote today's culture, and very often it could be used for things that aren't consistent with Torah. There was many years ago, there was a mission to Boston, to the state capital, and they were there to push Jewish values. If I'm not mistaken, one of the Jewish values was abortion. So you see, if you could read anything into it. You could twist anything that you want. So, is there a rod? Is there a smell test that will make something pass and another thing fail? Maybe not. But definitely it has to conform with traditional Jewish, with Jewish values, with Torah values, and with traditional Jewish interpretation. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, and I think we may have had this, but I would have told you that constellations and the zodiac are not consistent with Torah. We have the horoscope and so on. Okay, that's what I would have told you. And then a number of years ago, I found out that that Orion, the constellation Orion, and Pleiades are mentioned in Tanakh. And in the Tanakh, in the book of Amos and the book of Job, we have Pleiades and Orion, and it says this. I think it says the southern constellations. There's a third. There might be a third one. There is another one, and then there's in the Gemara, they're mentioned, and then other in the other books, maybe books of Kabbalah, we find they speak about the signs of the zodiac. The Egyptians were connected with Aries. Aries is a ram, and this is why we were commanded to take the lamb and slaughter the lamb, because it was to disarm again the power of the Egyptians and of their angel. Okay, so I would have said that before, and then I think I might have a book on the constellation of Judaism. Okay, so I learned that that is authentic, as long as it's done within the right framework. Nothing against Yokel Barrett. So I forgot how we got on this subject. Oh yeah, so there are Sheila, Abigail, you began by asking about the other teachings of the reasons for the four kinds. Yeah. So I prefer to call something like that not as reasons, but as symbols.
Okay.
Or symbolism. Sometimes I use the word suggestions, not to take away from them, not to say, but this is one legitimate suggestion. There's another legitimate suggestion. And the idea of symbolism is that they can be symbols for many different things, and they can all be authentic and legitimate.
I was reading the book from a great Torah scholar, Sanjay Gupta. He has a book out called Stay Sharp. And he talks about, basically talking about how to keep your brain sharp as you get older. But he talks about the joy.
Who is this? What's his name?
Sanjay Gupta. He's a
CNN.
neurosurgeon. Yeah, CNN neurosurgeon.
Gershon reads those kind of books.
So Stay Sharp is kind of an exciting book, actually. But of course, I haven't finished it yet. But he talks about how as you grow new neural pathways and develop your brain until the day you die, you can continue to do that, that you'll get better and better. They asked, what do you get out of that? And he said, you'll learn to connect more dots. And so I think about this as storing up lots of dots that I can't connect very well, but the Hasidus and the Sichos and all of that, more connected dots. And the joy that I personally experience is connecting the dots, just like Dr. Gupta said. There's a tremendous joy in connecting dots and understanding how this thing over here fits so well with this thing, and then they both mean so much more. And then you feel like God is more present and the Torah is more godly. And this is something you can take those pieces that are hard to take and understand there are dots that connect with all these things that are, especially, I struggle with being a modern female that came into this. And then you see how connected everything is. It builds your faith. Just do it. Do it even if you don't understand it, and keep studying.
That's why I like Gemara. Talmud is a great, you're witnessing a great
Witness.
intellectual exercise, right? To argue to both positions in one little paragraph. And it's like you say, it's very joyful to participate in that exercise. On another note, I was doing the crossword puzzle just to enhance my neuroplasticity.
Yes.
So it said that the clue was sign of fire, and I put Aries, correct? No, sign of fire was smoke.
Oh. I bet that messed up your crossword.
Oh, for a while, yes. It's like, oh.
There's
Funny.
there was a article 10 or 15 years ago in the New York Times about a rabbi in New York. He was, I think, 104, 102, 104, and he woke up 4 a.m. and he would spend his day studying Talmud and other things, Hasidus. And so this was in the New York Times. In Torah, we don't take vacations. We don't retire. There's always new. We grow dendrites. Actually, he probably talks about this, but when you first do a task and you're not used to it, so the neural pathways, they go like circuitous routes to go from here to there. And then as you get better at it, more skilled, it goes much more direct. And in cognitive terminology, that's called, we reach the point of automaticity. Where
Habit.
you're able to do it without much effort or thought.
That's why Bill Belichick makes them practice all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots. Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes it works.
Okay.
All
Yes.
right.
So we got back to our discussions.
Yeah.
Without Rudy.
Right.
Oh.
I had planned to begin the next chapter.
The next addendum.
No.
Next addendum.
And then, okay, good. I enjoy either way.
I think it's good to
There's a
pause
third
and look.
post also.